Welcome to the Soul Call with Kelly B. I'm Kelly Butchart, soul medicine woman, energy alchemist, intuitive guide and change maker. I'm here to activate soul remembrance, unlock purpose, and support the personal and collective evolution into sacred sovereignty. This podcast is a space for heart-led women to rise, to take their power back, to walk in truth and live elevated lives of joy, abundance and deep fulfilment. Through powerful conversations with visionaries, way showers and spiritual leaders, we weave ancient wisdom, quantum healing and divine insight to awaken something within your soul. This is more than a podcast, it's a movement, a remembering. This is the Soul Call. All of my offerings, social links and ways to connect are in the show notes below each episode. Be sure to check them out, I'd love to meet you there. And please remember to like, subscribe and share. Thank you for being here. Hi everyone, I'm Kelly Butchart and welcome to the Soul Call with Kelly B. I'm so excited to welcome back a very special guest to the show today. Someone whose presence, wisdom and energy have deeply touched so many of you and myself. Tim Wilde is not only a returning guest, but also a dear soul brother on this path of awakening. Tim is an ascension worker, international speaker, author, and crystal lover from the beautiful lands of Dorset in the United Kingdom. His work is rooted in the ancient frequencies of Atlantis and Egypt, and he carries those golden codes forward with integrity, clarity, and love. With a mission to support as many people as possible through the ascension process, Tim walks the talk, honouring the spiritual tests and initiations that shape and strengthen our soul's journey. His teachings are always grounded, powerful and filled with heart. Whether you've followed him for years or you're just discovering his magic, you're in for a real treat today. Tim, welcome back. It's such a joy to have you here again today.
That was such a beautiful introduction, Kelly. Thank you. I was like, oh, wonderful. And it's funny, just as you were kind of reading through that, all of the birds in my garden kicked off. It's just like I think Zoom kind of brings the kind of the exterior noise down, but it is a squawkathon out there at the moment, and you can't make the timing up, can you? So thank you. I'm honoured to be here with you.
Oh, it's beautiful to have you back, Tim. And honestly, I just want to start off by saying how much I appreciated you coming on to my show back in 2023. It's like, gosh, that was 2 years ago.
Like
And
another
to come,
lifetime, isn't it?
I know, I know. And here we are connecting again today and with everybody that's tuning in. So thank you so much because I know you're very busy. You're off to Wedmore tomorrow.
Webmore, yeah, sailing down to Webmore and have a full weekend's workshop with Mia Kafkios and all of the beautiful souls that are. We've been invading Webmore every May for well, this will be the third year running. So yeah, the great grand takeover will commence tomorrow afternoon.
Love it. I love it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that event and what, for those of
Thanks.
us that can't attend this time, what we're missing out on?
Right. Well, Mia and I have kind of been coming together now for this will be the third year that we've run something called the 6 months ascension journey. It's had a slightly different name each year. But what we've done is we've kind of like opened up a like a 6 month journey basically from beginning in either January or the spring and running it through for 6 months, one event a month. And also with a Q&A and lots of feedback, private Facebook group and everything like that. But the main highlight of it has been every May we've had a physical gathering in Wedmore, and these are usually kind of like we come together as almost like the peak of the journey, the actual the celebration of the coming together. And they're really good fun, but they're also incredibly powerful. If you know the work that Mia Kafkios does, it's becoming brighter, more grounded, very, very truthful and highly encoded. And like that space just gets lit up every time. It's the first time I've done a full weekend there, basically. I've usually come in on the Sunday and presented or co-presented for the day as well. But this time I'm here for the whole shooting match. So it's going to be good.
Amazing. And for those of you that haven't heard the episode that I recorded with Mia 2 years ago, I'm going to re-edit it and put it back out because it's such a beautiful conversation as well. So thank you for reminding me, Tim, of
Oh, pleasure.
how beautiful Mia is. And it's such an incredible collaboration that you have there. And I just love both of you. And I said to you before we
Oh.
press record, I must get down and, be in that energy hopefully next year. So I'm going to mark it in my diary to try and remind myself to get down for May next year.
Do it, do it. I'm pretty sure there'll be something going on in May next year as well, but we don't quite know in what form that is going to present itself yet. So
Yeah,
yeah, watch this
yeah,
space.
yeah. So you came on 2 years ago and we spoke
Mm.
a lot about the energies from the cosmic moment in 2012 and kind of where we'd got to through that whole situation in 2020, just what evolved there. And it was 3 years down the road from, 2020 and all the madness that ensued. And, there was a lot of sort of chaotic energy, but I have to say, for me, there's been even more of an acceleration from 2023 till now. I mean, I can't believe what I've experienced just in those 2 years. What has it been like in Tim's world the last couple of years since we last spoke? What's really emerged and broken
I
through
will
for you?
I will have to concur with you that the last 2 years have made what happened in 2020 feel like a day at the seaside comparatively, energetically. Despite what we witnessed and what
Mhm,
we experienced in the world around us from kind of February, March 2020 onwards, everything felt a little bit like we were kind of watching it and from a non-participating
mhm,
observational platform, whereas for the last 2 years have been very physical, very, very physical. It's been physical, visceral, boots on the ground, shadow worky, light integratey, dropping everything, discernment tests, karma releases, you name it. We've been
mhm.
really pushed. I'm sure everybody who's kind of like tuning in and listening and has had some kind of experience of their own on the ascension pathway. Maybe it's more recent, maybe you've kind of like maybe you're veterans of the field, and but whatever it is, like I've never experienced anything like I have over the last couple of years or so. Last year being the real litmus test, it was very physical. The previous year it became when we last spoke, it was we were kind of almost slap bang in the middle of like what's going on. The energy doesn't seem to be there doesn't seem to be any relent. There's no foot off the gas.
Mhm,
Previously, you could kind of rely on having a big spiritual event like, say, the solstice or the Lion's Gate, and afterwards, you knew you were going to get a bit of downtime. You knew that the energies were going to kind of subside. Like, say, for example, I used to look forward to the sun moving into Virgo, late August, early September, because it's almost like you could feel that sigh of, oh, Lionsgate shut. I can chill out for a bit now. But last 2023, it's like someone's like, nah, gas gets turned up even further. And it's like, okay, this is a completely different experience now. And just we seem to be moving from scenario to scenario,
mhm.
packaged in a higher frequency each time with more intensity, more carnival going on outside than we've ever seen before. Yet here we are, holding space in this beautiful frequency that we've got with one another,
Yeah.
talking about what's going on in the world with a very high level of understanding of actually how this is all being deployed almost
Yeah.
here on planet Earth. It's an incredible place to be at the moment.
It really is. And this is why I love you and your work so much because you really keep it real and you're very honest about it and you're not all lovey and lighty about it. It's like, gosh, this is really tough being boots on the ground and being the
Yeah,
earth crew. And yeah, I mean, just the last couple of years, if I can share from a personal perspective, what that has looked like for me is three close family deaths. And I always feel that deaths are some of the biggest initiations,
yeah,
and it really shows you the your vulnerabilities, your weak spots, the shadows, and you also see it in the other people that are experiencing grief in their own way. So that's been hugely intense for us, and it has been like, oh my God, and another one, and another one. And that's just three close family members. There's been lots of deaths, in our um, close proximity as well.
yeah,
And then there's also been huge initiations, and you mentioned like karmic relationships, and some that have been actually, for me personally, almost more challenging than the deaths. So there has been for me what has felt like betrayals, disappointments, hurt, all of that shadow stuff coming up to be looked at. And of course, like within me, like,
yeah,
what are these lessons? Oh my God, they are so uncomfortable. And, I've had to let people go in my life, and it has been so, I don't even have the words to say how painful it's been, actually. Very painful. There's been very raw lessons in it all. And what for me happened in one situation in particular was how it linked back to Atlantis and the fall of Atlantis. I'm not sure which one, Tim, but it felt big. And
yeah,
I thought, oh my goodness. And I really have felt in the last 2 years, I have been, and maybe been given more access. I'm not quite sure, but I've definitely been given more visions, and they've maybe not always made complete sense at the time, but then they have begun to make sense. So I've had dreams where I've been given like incredible information, and that's how I know that, there was a particular collaboration that I was doing, and it was linked to the fall of Atlantis. So it was huge for me, huge, huge, huge for me on a personal level and a business level to let something go. But I knew I had to honor that. And it's evolved me as a person and also on a business level. So now I'm talking about sacred sovereignty and what it means to really live a life that's free so that
yeah.
you can be all that you came here to be. And that's predominantly rooted in your heart. I wanted just to mention that because I see it also happening to other people, and we see it also in the world stage because it's all connected, isn't it?
It most certainly is. I mean, I'll call them master initiations because that's exactly how it's almost textbook packaging, isn't it? It's when you take on a mantle, when you take on a role, when you declare yourself here, boots on the ground, working for the light with a role that is particularly visible,
Hmm.
you will be sent the people to test your mettle, to test your barriers, your boundaries, your discernment. But the most important thing that's going on at the moment is wrapping up all of the loose cords from
Hmm.
the fall of Atlantis. And yeah, okay, we had five in total, but the one that gets us all was the fifth and the final fall of Atlantis. A, because it was only 10,000 years ago, and secondly, because since the fall of Atlantis, Atlantis has never finished. It never went away. And so when the Isle of Poseidon and the Temple of Poseidon sunk for the final time beneath the waves, and the shockwave went out around the world, and it was a shockwave that was basically recorded, embedded, and buried and activated within the DNA and the literal fabric of our planet all around the world. Like there wasn't anywhere that didn't feel it, and especially kind of encoded into the Atlanteans that either died at that time or survived and then moved on. But the main thing that happened is that at the fall of Atlantis, a very distinctive era began. And it was, first of all, it was our journey through the very lowest depths of the third dimension. This is something we all agreed to, by the way, but in
Hmm.
case there's a lot of kind of theories out there that say, well, this happened to us. We were unintentional victims of the way this, but nothing runs like that on this earth school. Everything has got a cause, a purpose, and
Hmm.
some kind of teaching plan, basically. So we all agreed to experience the very, as far as you can possibly get away from source in our connectivity,
Hmm.
and also live immersed completely in the hypnotism and the kind of the illusion of the third dimension. And then the test part comes when we've got to wake up, remember, and kind of crawl out the hole again, which is exactly what we're doing at the moment. If
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
the analogy sounds slightly rough, but that's where we're kind of rising out very rapidly from that period of time. But to cut a long story short, at the fall of Atlantis, there was a certain group of souls that created or exacerbated the circumstances. And they then rapidly put themselves in positions of power all around the world and managed to remain there till this very day. So what we're seeing at the moment is a recreation energetically of the shadow of the fall of Atlantis, whilst the actors or the puppeteers that have been in power
Hmm.
throughout the whole of the third dimension slowly relinquish what they are desperately trying to cling on to. So it never went away. What never ceases to fascinate me is the fact that the end of the Atlantean experiment was actually the cosmic moment that I was talking about in our previous meeting.
Yeah.
21st December 2012 was the end of the Atlantean experiment and the beginning of the movement into the golden age of Aquarius. So they kind of seamlessly moved from one to another, with us kind of experiencing all of this earthly goodness, all of the fun things that we're going through.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and here we are now, but the
Yeah.
final wrappings up, the old karma that we still have with those that we will have worked with previously, either for good or for otherwise, that has to all be released right now. That this is like it's a directive from the Intergalactic Council. We get all of this sorted. Like the karma needs to be released from the land, it needs to be released from us. Resentment, hurts, attachments, cords, lessons, everything needs to be done now so we can move on to the next phase of the project.
Yeah.
And here
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And the way that you describe it all, it's like you explain it in a way that we can all understand it as well. And that's what I've always been so grateful for, because I can get downloads and I can receive information, but I can't always make sense of it. So thank you for explaining that so simply and beautifully,
Oh,
because
my
it is such
pleasure.
a complex thing.
It is. It
As you
is.
were speaking, you mentioned Poseidon.
Mm,
And I got a flashback there. The furthest my husband and I have travelled is Southeast Asia, which was very
okay.
recently.
Mm,
So we visited Indonesia, Malaysia, Bali, Singapore. It was an amazing holiday.
mm.
And you're reminding me that when there was quite a lot of really interesting things that happened on that holiday, by the way,
I can imagine.
unexplainable things. But one of the things that I thought was quite odd was the last day that we were there in Bali, there was an island, like a man-made island off the sort of coast, if you
Mm.
like, and it had a huge, huge statue of Poseidon on it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and you've just reminded me, I must send you a photo later because I'm like,
Please do. Yeah.
that's like, why is that there? I just thought it was really quite bizarre.
It's at the fall, we all kind of scattered in various directions. There were 12 kind of primary tribes of Atlantis, and all kind of representing and holding the different energies of the primary temples. And so we all disappeared off. And the main priority when we got to where we were intending to go, I mean, I went to ancient Egypt, landed there, and became part of the ongoing culture until the energy began to fall there as well. And but many would have gone to Asia and would have attempted to recreate or hold on to what we had at that time. The idea was to make best of what we had,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that the energy was going to devolve rapidly because
Hmm.
that's just the nature of travel. And so wherever we went, we took mementos and we built what we possibly could to keep that energy alive for as long as possible. It became very difficult to maintain after a while because when we left Atlantis, those of us that survived were reduced from 12 chakras to seven. And upon that reduction, we lost a lot of our capacity to create the magic that we had previously. And this was deliberate.
Hmm.
The collars around the throats, the inability to have that level of like fifth dimensional connection, which you do when you're all singing or dancing. We were being reduced to the third dimension very, very rapidly. So
Hmm.
we used magic, we used alchemy, we used our connection, we used our memories. But of course, that then got by generation and after generation got very rapidly bred out of us. It was just simply the way that we went. And so yeah, that statue feels to me that it would have been created as an energetic memento of what existed previously.
Wow. Gosh, there were so many things, too many to mention here in this conversation. But one, I remember we were on a bus trip, traveling through Malaysia, and as I was looking out the window, I'm thinking, I've been here before, but I know I haven't in this life. And actually, what I was seeing was it was the same energy as Southern Ireland. And I
Okay.
remember saying to my husband, how can the energy here be the same as Southern Ireland? So now what you've just explained, I'm like, okay, so that might make sense. It might have been the Atlantean template that I was feeling there because even though the plants, it was subtropical, obviously the plants and just the greenery there, the plants are very different. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I think it was like that back then, like
Back
in
in the day.
Atlantis. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just like it was almost like, I don't know if you call it a timeline slip, but it was like a real remembrance of, I know this frequency, like I've been here. This is so familiar, but I've never been to Malaysia before. What's going on? So the way that you've explained that the 12 families would have, or tribes or clans or whatever we call them, what would you prefer we called them, Tim?
It's funny because the further I go through this process, the word tribes doesn't kind of resonate with me so
No.
much. I think like you say, families.
Yeah.
The families that represented the particular facet of energy that we were carrying at that particular time, the things that we were interested in, how we lived our lives. And I
Mm.
mean, a lot of it came together very as in a massive unity during the fifth dimensional era. But it's funny that you should mention that it felt like Southern Ireland because
Yeah.
there was a the continent of Atlantis carried, it was big, and it had a massive bandwidth of energy,
Mhm.
and that bandwidth of energy extended all down the western southern coast of Ireland, Cornwall, England, on the West Country, France, Spain, Portugal, Azores, Canary Islands, and kind of wraps itself around in a massive circle. So that energy that you could feel that reminded you was obviously you're connecting the dots with that. And that feels right.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so amazing. I've actually said to my husband, we're going to go and tour Ireland next year
Yeah.
because some of my grandparents are Irish and all, I think, of my great grandparents are Irish. So it really feels like home to me. And I've only been to Dublin twice, and I've been to Southern Ireland, and it was just incredible. And one of the reasons um, I'm really called to go to Cork, which is where my granddad was from,
Yeah.
um, I recently learned that that was renamed Cove again. It was originally called Cove in County Cork. It changed its name to Queenstown, and it
Mm-hmm.
was the last place that the Titanic left from. So it's known, or how sad is this? It was known as the saddest town in the world. And I thought, what a terrible label, to
Isn't
leave
it?
that signature imprint on Cove.
Yeah.
So I feel like my heart's calling me to go there and do a little bit of, grid
I
work
think
when I
you
go.
sounds to me like you'll have plenty of work to do
Yeah.
when you go there. You've already been given the golden scroll, haven't you? It's like, right, go off
Totally.
here. Yeah, no
Yeah,
holiday for you, Kelly.
totally.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because my original surname is Goodchild, and it was the Goodchilds that were there. I
Okay.
always think of Godchild, it's just
Oh,
like,
absolutely. Yeah,
just
same as
reminds me of that.
Godwin's.
Yeah,
Godwin's.
yeah, yeah,
It's funny how our names have all developed, isn't it? They're kind of like
yeah,
the hand-me-downs from what was.
yeah, absolutely. So I'm definitely going to visit there, do a bit of work there. And what I keep saying is when the Titanic crossed Atlantis, and I go, I mean the Atlantic Ocean. And, there's just
Interesting.
so much starting to make sense.
Yeah,
I think it's random, and of course, it never
never
ever
is.
is.
Never
Yeah.
is. No.
So
Brilliant.
I must share with you too, I am not an early morning person. You'll know that I had messaged you early this morning, and I'll tell you why
Yeah,
that was.
go for it.
Sometimes it's the cat that wakes me up, one of the
Mm.
cats or the dog. But no, this morning there was like a knocking on my bedside table, like a sort of rattle. I thought, what was that? And I kind of just went back to sleep again. And then I heard it again,
Mm.
and it was this skull. So it's the only crystal
Oh, woke
skull
you up.
that I own. And it was like knocking on my bedside table. And I'm like,
Okay.
okay. So I brought her down because obviously she was insisting on
Yeah,
part of this
being part of the
conversation.
conversation. Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
like,
bless her.
okay, I'm trying not to freak out at that, but I
They can
have
be
been,
very insistent when they want to be, can't they?
yeah, yeah, and I have been called to take her out when I've been doing a bit of sort of grid work, just
Mm.
taking the light where it's needed, and especially when I'm tuning into trees.
Okay.
And I would love for you to share because I know that you're a crystal specialist. And the crystalline knowledge, I mean, I think of us, we're becoming crystalline, aren't we, in our
Mm.
bones? And I would love, love, love to just hear you speak about what is coming more and more into your awareness, or how can we now work with crystal technologies to do like the best grid work that we can for this time.
Crystals are your friends. It's just saying this in a general, these beautiful. I mean, they're not just pretty, but they are pretty,
Yeah,
obviously. Like,
yeah.
like everyone loves crystals, but they have a much higher purpose. And the conversation that I had a conversation with Serapis Bay and Saint Germain probably about 15 years ago now, maybe more like 12 or 13 years. And I've just basically one of these random, like, why am I so addicted to crystals? Like, it's just why,
Yeah.
why am I kind of like getting buried in them on a daily basis? Why does all my work seem to be kind of like it never I'm never not working with them, basically every single thing that I do
Mhm.
is surrounded by, amplified and compounded by crystals and crystal work. And it was Saint Germain, yeah, Saint Germain said that basically, if it wasn't for crystals, our love for crystals and our connection to crystals, we would be still spiritually in the dark ages. And the reason being, he said, because where we are at this particular moment in time on the ascension process, particularly from 2012 onwards, our crystals have become an extension of ourselves. So when we have a crystal like yours waking you up this morning, they're not just a pretty carved shape. They are a highly evolved consciousness,
Yeah.
usually channeling and anchoring in whoever it is that you happen to be working with. But
Hmm.
not only that, they've given us the ability to reach into spaces that we would normally have no business in.
Yeah.
So when we were distinctly third dimensional still, our ability to reach up and to connect to the archangels, to the ascended masters, to receive messages that we needed, anchor energies in that were essential for the next phase of our process. Our ability to do that it was enabled by our connection to crystals.
Hmm.
And so without them and without our harmonious relationship with them, what we've done so far, we'd be way, way, way behind in it.
Hmm.
And what he also kind of pointed out is the relationship that we have with them now will not be necessary forever because we needed that leg up. In the meantime, I mean, we are the lightning rods, we are the antennae for the energies coming in. We have the ability to make these connections ourselves, but crystals has made that possible in the interim period. Later on in the process, we're going to be harmonizing ourselves with crystalline technology.
Hmm.
It's already coming through in the knowledge and the healing that we do, the amplification of sound, of light, of frequencies, the ability to probably generate power a little bit further down the road, and very much like the Atlanteans used to. But we've got to kind of work through the phase that we are on the planet at the moment before that becomes available to us. So on the subject of becoming crystalline, the to me, it's the initial part of becoming crystalline has been a bit of an analogy. It's been about the purification process because crystals are pure. They carry that frequency, or they hold their own sets of keys and codes and programs, and some of them have even got their own missions, and they will tell you that that's exactly what they're doing, kind of
Hmm.
thing. They're pure in their intentions, and they will always amplify what you are bringing through with your intention.
Hmm.
So that analogy of us becoming crystalline initially is the purification of the soul, the physical, the mental, the emotional, all of it. And I think kind of on an evolutionary level, us becoming actually physically crystalline is kind of further down the road
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
we've kind
Yeah.
of got to go through the process of physical evolution, if you see what I
Yeah.
mean. So
Yeah.
that's where we wouldn't be doing what we're doing without crystals. We wouldn't
Hmm.
be where we are now without them. And even if people use them unconsciously, like I just like having crystals about, well, they're there for a reason. They're grounding you, they're putting you in touch with whoever needs to be in touch with you, or vice versa. Um, and there's no real handbook for crystal use. Everybody has their own relationships with them and
Hmm.
how they use them and how they communicate with each other. And even when you don't think that they're actually working for you, they are.
Yeah.
It's one of those basically. So
Yeah.
yeah, essential stuff.
Oh, I love them. I've got such not as big a collection as you. I've got crystal envy, just the few that you held up there. I'm like, oh.
Waving them around randomly.
But you also sell them as well, Tim. You have
Mm.
some really beautiful pieces on your Facebook, and you've got a dedicated Facebook page, I believe. I just discovered
Yeah,
that today,
I think
and a
Crystals and
website.
Skulls. Yeah, Crystals and Skulls, Tim Wild. And it's the on the shop basically on my timwild.com website. And they've all right from the start. I work with them, and like they're pre-programmed. They're when I first started doing it, all of the crystals needed clearing,
Mm-hmm.
and they needed waking up, they needed activating, and this is back in 2013 sort of thing. So it'd be quite hard work. But now what I'm noticing is the crystals are coming in and they're already all singing or dancing. They're just like, where we going? What we doing? Program me sort of thing. And so I'm noticing this very much higher level of consciousness with them and higher benchmark of energy. It's things are just progressing so rapidly
Yeah.
on this pathway. But yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Kelly. Much
No,
appreciated.
not at all. And you're also reminding me of again, I'll get random things that I don't always understand at the time. But in one of my visions, I was taken to the Dendera temple, the Hathor temple at Dendera, and I was shown that the star map there was no longer there. Now, I hadn't researched this beforehand, I didn't know any of this. So after that vision, I researched it because I had to know, is that
Was
actually a thing?
it? Yeah.
What's going on? And then I discovered that they had blasted off that star map from Hathor's temple in Dendera in the 1920s, I think. Don't quote
Hmm.
me on that. And had placed it in the Louvre, where they also have the Mona Lisa. And I've been shown really interesting things about that and the Arago plates in Paris and the Rose Line. And I've done a bit of work when I visited Roslin Chapel, all connected
Ah,
into
right.
that.
Okay. Yeah.
So when it came to me creating, because I was encouraged to create an Oracle deck, and one of the decks, the whole deck is based on my own personal experience and what's been shown to me. And I was encouraged, even though I don't completely understand it all, to put that into the Oracle deck. So that's what I did. I put in the star map of Dendera and the Hathor image. And once I had produced the Oracle deck and put it out, I was given another vision and I was shown that inside our own human skulls, we have, I don't know if it's a gateway or it's not a chakra, but it's like a star map that connects us back to other constellations. And I was being shown like when the lights come on, it's almost like we're connecting back to aspects of our multidimensional selves. So again,
Yes.
I don't understand what it all meant, but I'm like, okay, that makes sense in a kind of way, but I'm not sure what I'm being shown.
I think you're being shown a route map, direction of travel. If you think about where your soul origin kind of comes from,
Yeah.
and then you will have had like an extensive journey through various incarnations, missions, dimensions, and found your way here. I mean, the enduring questions that I get asked is like, where am I from? And it's like a lot of people believe that they are from the last place that they can remember stepping down from, such as the thing I stepped down through Neptune. There's several points of kind of entry
Mhm.
into this incarnation, and each one would have provided you or me or anybody else with the very specific pre-mission training that we would have needed. So I came down through Neptune. And my initial thought was, oh, I'm from Neptune then. But then I kind of traced it back, and it's like, no, no, you are a long way from Neptune, son. You know what I mean? It goes all the way through all of these different. So it would appear to me to be like a soul map
Yeah,
of where you've been on your travels on the way here. So that would be a really useful thing to work out for
yeah,
yourself or for anybody else. It's like it'd be like a cosmic ping pong, wouldn't it? You know, like
yeah,
where am I? Like, okay,
absolutely.
serious. I've been over the Pleiades, and like, oh, come down through Neptune, brilliant, or the cosmic heart, or wherever you go, sort of thing. And
Yeah.
that's pretty much how it rolls. But if you follow the direction of like, crow flying direction of travel from the stellar gateway back to your soul origin, you might be surprised at where you actually did come from. A lot
Mhm.
of people follow follow it back
Mhm.
right the way back to soul origin. They're like, where is that? It's just, it hasn't got a name. It's a funny color, and I'm not receiving anything for it. It's probably because your human mind hasn't got an explanation for it. It's the frequency's right up there somewhere.
Yeah,
So it can be a bit of a surprise following it right back to soul origins,
yeah.
because not all of us come from where we think that we do.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense how you've explained that. It really, really does. And I'm thinking back, I had an incredible reading with, oh, she's just a beautiful soul. I had her on my podcast previously too, Sharon Ann McNeil. She's in
Hmm.
South Africa. And she said, Kelly, I believe you're an Orion starseed, the same as her.
Yeah.
Um, which would potentially explain a lot of the trauma that I feel like I've had to try and, heal from in this life, when you think about
Yeah.
what went down there in the Galactic Wars and all
Mm.
the rest of it. But I've been all over the place. There's just a deep knowing in me. I have been all over the place, as many of us have. And she confirmed that in the reading as well. And I do have a connection with lots of places like Sirius. I believe
Mm.
I've came in through the Pleiades Gateway more than
Yeah.
once, probably because it's the easy
Yeah.
way to come in. I don't
It's a
know.
nice one to come through.
So there's just so much to explore in all of
Mm.
that. But I want to really ask you a little bit more about the direction you're feeling that you're being called now. Because what we spoke about in the last conversation was that a big part of your purpose and mission here, Tim, is to awaken and support others and teachers on this ascension pathway. And it must bring you so much joy to know that you are impacting the world in that way, through your generous heart and supporting others where they were losing their minds, and I've been there like
Yeah.
more than once, like help.
Yeah.
Um, where do you feel like you're being called now? Because I know that you're traveling a lot now,
Mm.
supporting a lot of people. You've got a big following. Where are you being called now?
It's Do you know, this is it's a funny year this year, Kelly, at the moment because there's quite a few things have changed.
Mhm.
Um, Almost the information that's coming from the Intergalactic Council about the quantity slash quality of awakenings that are going on around the world, the amount of people that are waking up. I mean, things are happening a lot faster than we could ever have hoped for. But in the process of doing so, you cannot rule out the like the kind of the Joker card in the pack of like how the response of the 3D matrix is going to be. We are dealing with
Mhm.
like, all of these very unpredictable routes of action. And also you cannot predict human response and human nature. One of the things that I've noticed is that we're going right back to core survival mechanisms at the moment because the right even at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, it was duly noted upstairs that the fear levels
Yeah.
were getting very high amongst even the seasoned light workers amongst us, and people were just basically, pardon my French, losing their shit a little
Hmm.
bit and
Yeah.
not staying kind of like eye on the prize and focused and balanced and everything. And we're human at the end of the day. You
Hmm.
know, it's taken me into a place where I've realized actually we're all human. We've got to realize that we're human. And suddenly it then kind of evolved in my in my kind of like little light bulb came on. This is about being as human and as raw and as loving and as heart-centered as possible. You can blow all the fluff into the world that all the unicorn dust that you want. But if you don't love yourself and you're not being loving to yourself throughout this process, then it's all chat, basically. It's all platitudes. So it's removing the platitudes from our process and becoming really real about what we're going through. And I've heard amazing things, even the people who represent the Intergalactic Council, such as Serapis Bay. We would consider these beings like so above what we're going through that they're just like just rolling it out. They've seen it all before, everything, but no, they've learned something this year themselves. They've
Hmm.
actually kind of learned about the taking the foot off the gas, letting nature take its course, flow, expectation, and frustration, because there's been a lot of frustration both on the ground and kind of in the higher realms as well about how this all rolls out. And because of this wild card, this fear thing that's come up this year, and it's big. If you look at the golden timeline that we're steering ourselves onto, there's two other parallel ones that have been very covertly set up, very cleverly put into place. One is fear of conflict, and the other is fear of the future,
Hmm.
finances, everything that we would have. And the Matrix plays on these greatly. They know exactly how to get people away from, oh, I'm in my heart, everything's wonderful, for, oh my God, what's
Yeah.
going on, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And so we've been bouncing from one to the other,
Hmm.
attempting to stay in the middle. And
Hmm.
it's about just kind of, okay, well, we've got to acknowledge that this occurs within us. We're human. We can't all be this perfect version of ourselves all of the time. We've got to start being real.
Hmm.
And it's just a huge unveiling. It's so beautiful how it's happening. The veils are coming off the third eye, the blue light has washed through. We can see everything. Okay, we can see the good stuff, we can see the bad stuff. Now we've got to acclimatize to it and accept it and be as absolutely loving as we possibly can be to ourselves first of all,
Hmm.
before we can actually bring this out into the world. But we've got to be authentic as well.
Hmm.
You know, the masks are off. It's I'm seeing this echoed as well within the light community. People have just had enough of being either false or telling lies or
Hmm.
pretending that they're not feeling a certain way, or pretending that they're something that they're not.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hang on, this is exactly how it's supposed to be. This is, the raw reveal of our process. It
Yeah.
never was going to be a unicorn-led fanfare. It was going to be kind of like removing ourselves from the old, shaking all of the hypnotism away, and becoming real people, but with a heart-centered society.
Hmm.
So yeah, massive changes.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you've mentioned that because that takes me back to what I'd spoken about previously about this. It's been painful and messy and
Mm.
chaotic. Um, and yeah, just more difficult, especially this last couple of years. Last year, oh my God, what even was last year? The
What was that
intensity
about?
levels were like you say, it's like, whoa, let's turn it
Yeah,
up some.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and being reminded that we are human beings at the end of the day. And, to break through into more light, so to speak, we're going to have to meet the darkness. And, even with all the, yeah, all the tools and techniques and all the rest of it, we still get the initiations coming. And there's been a lot that's happened. I mean, gosh. I think it would be a whole other hour to talk about, like, even just some of
oh
the
yeah.
trials and tribulations of the last year.
Well, you can list one and then spend a day talking about it, can't you?
Absolutely.
There's so
Absolutely.
much involved with each facet of this process.
Hmm.
Um, it fascinates me. I'm like, the one good thing about this job that we do is it never gets boring, does it?
No, it never does. It never does.
No.
But gosh, it takes us to really deepen into that. What you're alluding to here is this self-compassion and self-love, because it's not all an outside job as we had been led to believe for a long time. It's always been an inside job and always returning to be self-compassionate and not taking it all too seriously, even though it's a serious job and we do take it seriously. It's like we
Yeah.
need to bring in the humor and the joy and be
Oh gosh,
light-hearted
yeah.
with it too.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's been a constant reminder for me, just to return to the joy and not get so bogged down with it all, because that's what the other agendas want. They want us to be trapped in those lower frequencies and not to be
Hopeful,
enjoyed.
scared, it's I saw a beautiful post earlier on just before I came on with you, and it compounded everything that we're talking about now. I wish I could remember the name of the chap that had written it. But he was just basically this beautiful writing of about the Great Reset and why it failed. It was almost like a past tense. He was writing it as if it was 10 years in the future.
Mhm.
And he just so eloquently listed all of the things that have been tried to capture and keep us in the third dimension, and why they just went utterly south and wrong, cracked
Yeah.
apart, fell apart before our eyes. But one of the main things that I took away from it was that like the great resistance, the great awakening, the great kind of the great reset was not met with pitchforks or weapons on a battlefield. We just like went, no, thank you. unplugged and walked away. And I was like, that's exactly what we're doing. We're just like, no, actually, I'm really not interested in participating in that. No thanks. And that's it. You know, no
Yeah.
is an incredibly powerful word
Yeah.
in any language, all the way up through the dimensional ladders. So
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. We've unplugged and we're just like, not for me, thank you, not
Yeah.
today.
I'm busy over here creating a beautiful new frequency, and I'm so
Yeah.
focused over here. I love that. What a beautiful, beautiful point to finish on. If we haven't already received, all that we've received from you here and like all the beautiful messages and the reassurance, what would be the final words, Tim, if I was to ask you for some final words of reassurance for people that are tuning in and listening about, the energies are intense. There's a lot of solar flares. There's, the world stage is just a bit mental as usual. People can become a bit disheartened at times if they're still watching the news and things like that. So, what would you wish to leave people with in their hearts today?
I could sit here and talk for an hour on this. Just to take it away, just as a takeaway, and this isn't kind of some kind of glossy platitude. Become your highest self.
Mm,
Okay, remember that you have come here for a very specific purpose. You're not staggering around on this world experiencing all of this randomly. You have been specifically chosen to be here at this time, and you would have trained long and hard and undergone rigorous preparation before your incarnation. Everything that we are seeing and witnessing out there at the moment is for what we're witnessing that is challenging us is for the benefit of those that have not woken up yet. So be patient with it. We have to see what we have to see and witness, because if it doesn't occur, then we will not have so many of our brothers and sisters to walk through that ascension gateway. It's the method that is being used at the moment to wake people up. And although it's extremely uncomfortable to witness, and although it presses our survival buttons, ringing that bell loud and clear,
mhm,
everything has a higher purpose. There's no random happenings on this world. The only thing that you cannot control is human emotion and reaction. So
mhm,
if we get ours under wraps, and if we know what we're doing and we're grounded and we're holding that light, everyone will be able to see it
mhm.
and feel it.
Beautiful. Wise words as always. Tim, thank you so very much for coming on today. And
Oh, Kelly, it's been an absolute honor. It really has. Lovely to catch up with you.
Angie, and I hope to have you back again in the future sometime.
Anytime, just give me a yell. I'll be here.
Oh, thank you so much to everybody for tuning in to this episode today. And Tim, safe travels tomorrow. I know it's going to be a weekend that's just so completely magical. And give
Lovely.
me a big hug from me. And I'm
Oh, well.
sending you lots and lots of love.
Oh, lots of love to you as well, and to everybody else tuning in. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Soul Call with Kelly B today. If this episode spoke to your heart, I'd be so grateful if you'd take a moment to like, subscribe, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. Your support truly means the world, and it helps this message ripple even further. And if you're feeling called to explore more of my work, my latest offerings, sessions, and ways to connect are all in the show notes below. I would love to hear from you. Until next time, keep listening to your beautiful soul. With so much love, Kelly.